Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. For many of us that live in cities or suburbs, camping trips often represent one of the few opportunities we have to experience nature for an extended period of time. And though the argument can definitely be made that what most people consider camping these days is hardly roughing it, considering the amount of creature comforts we tend to bring along, it's easy to forget just how dangerous and unforgiving the outdoors can be, even for seasoned adventurers. As spring turns to summer for us in the Northern Hemisphere, and many of us eagerly plan activities for the nice weather, we decided we'd take this opportunity to creep you all out before you head off into the wilderness, by covering a few eerie cases of people who went camping and were never seen again. Before we get to our list, we wanted to take a second to remind everyone about Crime Zone's Patreon. In addition to ad-free versions of all of our content and weekly bonus videos for our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos, patrons will get exclusive monthly videos covering viewer-suggested cases. If you want even more Crime Zone content and are interested in helping to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/crimezone to sign up. With that out of the way, here are 3 mysterious cases of missing campers. On the afternoon of February 21st, 2010, 43-year-old Laura Vogel set out for an overnight camping trip near the Pauwela Point Lighthouse on the Hawaiian island of Maui. Though she had been to the area several times before during the day, this would be the first time that she had camped out there overnight. After leaving a friend's house at approximately 5:30 p.m., Laura hopped in her van and drove to the place where she planned to camp out for the night, along the northern shore of the island. Like many others, she had been drawn to the area for its breathtaking natural beauty. The cliff tops of Pauwela overlook the rocky shores that meet the ocean below. Laura planned to hike around an area near the cliffs known as the Birthing Pools before spending the night sleeping out under the stars. These kinds of impromptu trips were nothing out of the ordinary for Laura. She had been in love with the outdoors from the time that she was a child, taking every opportunity to explore nature. Though she had a master's degree in wildlife biology and had formerly been a science teacher in her native state of New Mexico, eventually she had chosen to relocate to Hawaii. The state seemed to offer her endless opportunities to explore her many interests, including hiking, surfing, birding, camping, and just about any other activity that fed her passion for nature. While on the phone with her parents that day, she excitedly told them about her plans for the evening, saying that she could only stay one night because she had to be back for a tutoring session with a student the following morning. This was one of the ways that she supported herself while living in Hawaii. As the afternoon turned to evening, it seemed like everything was going well. Laura stayed in contact with friends via text messages, telling them about the things that she had seen. At approximately 8:20 p.m., Laura sent a message saying, quote, "I'm camped down the way from the birthing pools and meeting all the locals." Though there was nothing sinister about the content of the message itself, its context would soon change entirely. That's because this would be the final communication anyone would ever receive from Laura Vogel. The next morning, there were immediate concerns for Laura's safety after she missed her scheduled tutoring session with her student. Adding further alarm, no one could get in contact with her, and she wasn't returning calls or messages, which was completely out of character for her. Maui police were quickly informed about Laura's disappearance, but told her worried family and friends that they needed to wait 24 hours before they could officially begin an investigation. Not willing to wait that long, many of those who knew Laura immediately set out to search for her. What they found was extremely concerning. Laura's van was discovered near the Pauwela Lighthouse, in the same area where she had previously said she would be camping. The driver's side door of the vehicle had been left open, and the keys were in the ignition. Though her laptop and surfboard were still inside, her wallet and cell phone were missing. There was also no sign of Laura anywhere. The following day, police began their official investigation, and search efforts in the area were quickly expanded. That's when attention started to turn towards a nearby homeless encampment. While reports often contradict each other here, what we do know is that Laura's van was parked in or very close to this encampment. Rumors also began to swirl that despite the area's reputation for natural beauty during the day, after dark, the area around the Pauwela Point Lighthouse took on a more dangerous and unsavory atmosphere. What was immediately strange is that despite Laura's last message referring to meeting the locals, no one in the area seemed to remember her when they were interviewed by police. This feeling of unease was only deepened when 2 days after Laura's disappearance, a piece of her cell phone was found close to where her van had been discovered. A further search of Laura's phone records revealed that 2 calls had been made from the device shortly after she sent her last text message. The calls were to a number that was not in her contacts, nor had she ever called the number previously. Whoever placed the calls hung up almost immediately after they were connected. Police eventually traced this number to a transient man in the area who had a campsite close to where Laura's van was discovered. The man was questioned, but said that he had lost his phone sometime before, and police said that he provided them with an alibi for the night of the disappearance. According to the man, he was fishing with some other homeless people a short distance away, and his story was backed up by 2 others. The man eventually agreed to take a polygraph test, but was uncooperative during the exam, and it was not completed. Despite the suspicious circumstances of Laura's disappearance, with no conclusive evidence of foul play, Maui police said that while they could not rule this possibility out, they could not rule out the possibility of an accident either. The terrain around Pauwela was rocky and dangerous, and a slip and fall from the cliffs was seen as a definite possibility by investigators. This explanation was wholeheartedly rejected by Laura's family. As an experienced hiker and backpacker, they refused to believe that she would have put herself in a dangerous situation on the cliffside that would have led to her death. Meanwhile, search efforts continued to come up empty. The police called off their official search in March, but made a point of saying that the investigation into the disappearance would continue in full force. However, several of Laura's friends and family members had already been in Maui for weeks by this point, and continued to organize volunteers and raise money for further searches. Countless community members devoted their time to the case, and were often aided by off-duty firefighters, members of the U.S. military, and professional search and rescue organizations. These efforts would continue throughout 2010, and involved aerial and marine searches in addition to those conducted on the ground. Sadly, no additional traces of Laura were ever found. On the 1-year anniversary of the disappearance, Laura's parents recounted many of the techniques that had been used to try and find their daughter in an interview with the Albuquerque Journal back in New Mexico. The same report mentioned that though police were still receiving the occasional lead through their tip line, nothing substantial had materialized since the early days of the investigation. By this point, national media attention on the case had also started to slow, and even the blog set up by the family, called Find Laura Vogel, had ceased its once regular updates. The last post to the site was made on June 4th, 2012, by Laura's older brother, Greg Vogel. In it, he detailed his frustration with the police investigation up until that point, accusing them of avoiding finding evidence that would help to build a case against those he believed were responsible for his sister's disappearance. He also said that police insisted from the start that it was an accident or suicide. Interestingly, Greg also outlined his own theory of the case in the post, involving the transient man that was first interviewed after he was connected to calls from Laura's cell phone. Vogel said that he believed Laura was attacked and killed by the man shortly after sending her last text, and that in the struggle, the man had lost his cell phone. Vogel believed that the man made the calls to his own phone in an attempt to find it, and that's why both calls were hung up so quickly. He believed his sister's body was later disposed of in the ocean. The post finished by saying that the family was out of options, and that they were heartbroken but were attempting to move on with their lives. Though the post itself is ultimately just more speculation, absent any hard evidence, we decided to mention it because it does seem to make sense of one of the most important loose ends in the case, that being why those 2 mysterious calls were made from Laura's phone. However, the frustrating thing about the case is that with so little information, theories are more or less impossible to validate or discredit. At the current time, it has been more than 11 years since Laura Vogel disappeared, and unless new information emerges, it seems virtually guaranteed that the case will remain a tragic mystery. The last major piece of news we could find on the subject was over 2 years old, and simply stated that the Maui Police Department had joined other counties in the state in uploading data from their missing persons cases to the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System. Laura's case was among 111 others dating back to 1966 that were added by the state during that time. Hopefully, the added visibility brought by the case's inclusion in the database will eventually bring forward the vital information needed to finally solve the disappearance of Laura Vogel once and for all. Do you know of any other cases like this that you think we should check out? Tell us about them in the comments section below. As always, if you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest releases. Thank you for watching.